everybody. Thanks for joining me for another one-man review. Today, I'm going to go through page by page this book, Grapefruit by Margarida Matos. So, spoilers, but this is just such an interesting, compelling, philosophical book. I feel like I have to engage in it that way for people to get the idea of really what it is and for me to really feel like I've done a thorough job reviewing it. I would definitely encourage going and buying this from the Cush website. I think these things are pretty limited run, so whether you've seen me flip through it or not, I think it's well worth owning. As soon as I saw the title of this one, Grapefruit, I'm thinking, okay, this artist must be dealing with Yoko Ono somehow, because Yoko Ono's famous Grapefruit book with conceptual art in it is pretty famous, and that actually turned out to be true, which I was very excited about seeing in this work. Also, I don't know if this is true or not, but right here on the front page, this says, "Congratulations, you are one of the 1,000 selected people to whom we are sending this part comic by Margarida Matos. Each person has received a portion of this comic. We are planning to hold a gathering in the future to put all parts together to appreciate the comic in its original form." I don't know if that's true or not. If it is, from a production standpoint, that's totally nutty. I don't know how they did it. So if anyone else has bought this, if you can tell me that this is the same thing you have or not, I would be really interested in that, because it feels complete enough to me, but also it's 100% trying to do in comics what Derrida and someone who's really into like literary deconstruction would be doing from a real formal standpoint, with writing, but now we're including the image in here as well. So it's a really interesting like philosophical experiment. Here you see January 2022. It has been a while since the last time I existed, and then you get February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, with bits missing and kind of jumbled around. I have become a book figure, a word, an image, a life read. And then here it says, "Hello there, welcome to my reality, comic/composition. What do you want to be?" But like you would get with Derrida, there's erasure here, so some of the words are crossed out, which was something that I think he got from Heidegger first, but Derrida used it as well. The Susrature, putting something under erasure. So this is also doing that. Now this is where I wonder, maybe the artist got this and drew on it afterwards, because there are things that suggest this connects to something bigger. But here it says, "What I feel is felt in order to write that it was felt." So I'm just feeling these things because I'm sitting down to write. I'm thinking about this too much. These sketches, I'm assuming, of the artist's face where you can select your player, but it's just, seeing her from different angles. "What I think is immediately in words, mixed with images that deconstruct it, opens its rhythms that narrate my being." So talking about like how you think, that the first thing is to think in words, and then for this artist thinking in images, and then kind of playing with obviously acknowledging the idea of deconstruction. "On this plane surface, figures, words, and images coexist without hierarchies. Let's get rid of these." And you can see this poetics of form here, just kind of erasing the captions and the word balloons, "composing a reality where time and space are abolished as separate entities." And I think also suggesting that pictures and words become abolished as separate entities. And this is something that Derrida very much wanted to do. He basically wanted to deconstruct and erase all boundaries. My reading of Derrida is that he's very distressed that there are more than one thing in existence, that as soon as you have more than one thing in existence, or any kind of binary time and space, something like that, that there's always going to be a me and the other, and that so you always have battle built into the fabric of reality. And it seems to me like Derrida's come up with a set of strategies to just try and collapse existence itself. He seems to be the ultimate kind of nihilist that just wants to annihilate everything and get back to pure singularity. So I think that's some of what's being suggested here, is like, let's try and, collapse these things into each other. Through this process of self-deconstruction, I thought myself through this process of the self-deconstruction, I thought myself to the point of becoming my own thoughts, which is, one of these weird little language games that Derrida would like to play. I also like this, the perspective burst, like here's the collected things that I've said over my life, and they have formed me to the vanishing point of becoming my own thoughts. So here's all the things I've said, which are my thoughts, and now I've become this. And then somehow through all of this, destruction is finding themselves. That's very much this self-canceling statements is very much a Derrida thing. Meaning can be found in every mark of, on, in these pages. And I like this, that you can say every mark of these pages, or every mark on these pages, or every mark in these pages. You can kind of choose. The artist is choosing to put it that these are marks on paper. So drawing your attention to the fact that this is all a fabricated reality. There's no blinds here. There's no perspective. And then here, where you can barely see it because of all the pencil work, meaning is something we find in every second of existence. And so even just the visual idea of searching for that. And then there's these erased letters here that you can't, the artist is asking you to seek. Again, there's stuff that seems to be going out into other panels. This looks like a word balloon up here. So yeah, I don't know how much of this is, it seems like a through statement to me, but there must be more out there. Because, again, being erased, the pleasure of not existing is to always be present. That's a very Buddhist idea, I think, like just being in the present is kind of the ego death of non-existence, and that seems to be where Derrida wanted to head as well. And so, in these successive pages in which I describe myself, I remain more in the figures, words, and images than in myself. So this is the process of self-destruction by making this book and making yourself exist more here. The artist seems to think there's some kind of self-destruction in that. And then here it's like, are you ready to get out? Are you ready to get out? Are you ready to get out? Are you ready for reality? And then you say, I exist without knowing it, and I will die without wanting it. And this character is questioning reality, and then the little pencil character seems to be saying, good job, reality, you made it. So interesting. And then you get the Yoko Ono here, which is, I don't quite know what this is. I am the inner space, the gutter. We all know from comics what the gutter is. So using the language of comics, going to Scott McCloud to make some statements as well. Almost there. Now comes the hardest part. Between what I am, who I am, and what I am not, who I am not. Don't know where that goes yet. But here, then this is the Yoko Ono piece, rubber piece. Imagine your body spreading rapidly all over the world like thin words. Imagine cutting out one part of one word, cut out the same size rubber, and hang it on the wall beside your bed. One day, wake up and erase every word you find. If you've never seen a Yoko Ono conceptual piece, they are like these little poems like this that give you instructions of something to imagine, or some action that you can imagine, and imagine the consequences of it. They're usually pretty absurd, but some of them are actually doable. And the argument being made there was that these are art forms that the artist has built in your mind. There's no actual aesthetic physical object to look at. It's forming the idea in your mind. And so that I can't quite figure out how that's part of this. But then we go back to this, are you ready to get out? You start to see the artifice of like perspective here, the word balloons on everything. Just some really interesting formal visuals. Here you have Room Piece by Yoko Ono. When a room is needed, obtain a person instead of a room. Live on them. When another room is needed, obtain another person instead of another room. Live on them. So even interpreting what the hell Yoko Ono wants you to do by living on a person is an interesting thing. But again, deconstructing the room. While intuitive marks, printed words, and images drawn from other images carry the load of the narrative, reality goes with on me. So this artist has saying that they've written themselves out of this. Obviously, they're still drawing it, but reality would keep going on. Otherwise, some more more just poetica form stuff, the pencil taking off. Some interesting things here where I think now this is supposed to be the artist's room with their drawing board and some little checks on color off to the side. I'm not quite sure. To narrate is to create. To live is to be lived. And again, just more play with this window. I don't totally know what all this adds up to, as is the case with this type of work. It's usually kind of intentionally obscure. Hello there. Welcome to Reality Comic Composition, WTV, whatever you want it to be. And then here you get Grapefruit by Anna Margarida Matos, a book of instructions, introduction by Leifus. The other thing I question is, are those actually excerpts from Yoko Ono's Grapefruit, or has Anna Margarida Matos just made the look of that kind of thing for this book and is writing her own set of instructions? I'm not sure. And then this idea of are you ready to get out? Are you ready to get out? As interesting as this all is as a comic, the reason I have to go through it and engage with it from a philosophical standpoint is I've always found this. Well, I shouldn't say always. I used to want the same thing, that Gnostic idea, the idea of in the Matrix where you're trapped behind this veil of your senses and there's more reality to get to, and there's division and war and people not getting along, and the only way to get out of that would be to get out of your body and break on through to the other side and all of that. But as I've gotten older, I've come to see that as a very dangerous outlook. It just doesn't seem to correspond with how things really work to me. And I don't get the impulse. I guess the thing I don't get about this the most is the impulse to erase oneself, to get rid of conflict, basically, or erase all selves, erase all difference, to get rid of conflict. You're trying to aim for a conflict-free place, and that has to be a wish that's done from the place of someone who wants to experience it. It's this separation and othering and war is all unpleasant, so let's find a way to get past that, and the only way we can think of to get past that is to all just merge into one big singularity. Wouldn't that be nice and utopian? But it's such a strange desire to me, because you won't be there to experience it. You're aiming for this thing that's an ideal world, but it's an ideal world that no one or no thing, there's nothing there to benefit from it. So I've always found this type of philosophical vein, even though they're pointing out a lot of very true things about how language works and true things about division and the structure of reality working linguistically, and that there are layers of filters that are put on us that keep us from seeing the totality of the picture of reality and divide us off into our own little selves and make us selfish. That's all true, but I just don't know that the answer is to erase everything. We at least me, if we can find a utopian solution, I want to be there on the other side of it to benefit from it. So this is a really curious book to me, because it's the first time I've ever seen that approach, the Derrida deconstructionist approach, being played out so well with the comics form. I've seen Grant Morrison deconstructed superheroes, but he wasn't doing this where he's deconstructing the medium itself on the page in the way that a Derrida would do. So this seems like someone who's pretty educated, I don't know in Derrida exclusively or explicitly, but someone who's influenced by that line of deconstructionist thought and applying it to comics. Again, in the end, I think I would philosophically be on the other side of the debate here, or at least not aligned with this, but it's so well done and so well presented and so well interesting that it doesn't matter to me. we're perfectly fine to think separate things. But yeah, I find this to be a really, really compelling work. Obviously, that's why I made a whole video about it. And it's definitely something that I think I could go back to. I think that even talking about it now, I've like solidified my interpretation on a few things a little bit more. And that's totally what an artist like this would want as well, that the reader brings so much to the interpretation that there is no point the author was making. And I think that would even drive this idea of like, hey, we're going to bring 1,000 people together and through the group, because this is all very much like individual versus group as well, individualism versus collectivism, that the kind of collective interpretation of this might have more of a unifying and less of an othering than my personal interpretation. So I don't know. I hope this is true. I hope there is not a single copy of this is the same as any other copy. And I hope at some point we all get on a Zoom meeting, all 1,000 of us, and try and figure it out. But I don't know. It's a strange thing, and I like strange things. So go out and get it. Get yourself a copy. I just spat on mine. I was so excited about it. Get yourself a copy and let me know if it's the same book or not. I'm really, really curious about it, and I'd be curious to hear other people's kind of philosophical takes on this after they've read it.
Whole new world. 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 For you and
Make sure to like, smash that subscribe button, and ring that bell.